I walked onto a top D1 cross-country program and ultimately helped win a team national title. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 specific tips to run faster this cross-country season.
I also entered a college cross-country meet to attempt to put these tips to practice. I'll walk you through that entire experience while attempting to give you my best advice to help you succeed this cross-country season. Enjoy the video. My first couple of tips have more to do with what you can do in training in preparing for race day.
Follow your coach's prescribed paces, especially in workouts. Recovery runs should be easy. They should be recovery runs. And when it comes to workouts, I'm going to give you 2 examples. In a threshold or a tempo workout, the goal of the workout is to spend time running close to your lactate threshold. And what this does is it helps your body be able to flush out the lactic acid that builds up in your legs when you're running at hard efforts, which is honestly really closely associated with the paces you run in the sport of cross country. So if your coach gives you a prescribed pace, if you go too fast and you fade towards the end, you're actually going to spend less time at your lactate threshold. Similarly, in an interval type workout. These are workouts where you are trying to run VO2 max. If you're unfamiliar with VO2 max, in short, it is a threshold at which your body can replace the oxygen that your running muscles are using. And there's a pace associated with that. And it is faster than your lactate threshold. Again, the way to increase your VO2 max is by spending time at your VO2 max. So in those workouts, if you're going out too hard and you're racing your intervals, you might not be able to maintain that pace throughout the entirety of the workout. Likewise, if you're going too slow and you feel like you have too much left in the tank, you might not be actually running at your VO2 max. So run the paces that are prescribed to you by your coach. Hopefully your coach understands these concepts and they can implement them into your training. If you listen to them, you are much more likely to get the most out of your training. Similarly, if your coach gives you a pace to run in a race, they probably have an idea of what kind of fitness you're in, and they probably have an idea of how to get the most out of your performance on race day. Pick a bedtime and stick to it. Look, you don't get faster while you're running, you get faster while you're recovering from running. What that means is you're not gonna get the benefits from the training unless you're properly recovering from the training. And the best way to get the proper recovery and the most effective way that your body does recover is by consistent, effective, quality sleep. And one way to really ensure that your body is good at falling asleep and getting the highest quality of sleep is by going to bed at the same time every night, and then adding on to that, getting the correct amount of sleep. General rule of thumb, 8 to 9 hours is ideal, but get a minimum of 7 hours each night if you can. Consistency will allow your body to be able to increase the quality of sleep each night. And with that, I would also advise you to try to keep your bedtime consistent even on the weekend. If you're constantly switching your bedtime from the weekday to what it is on the weekend, your body will forget how to fall asleep properly and you will get much poorer quality sleep, even if you're getting the same quantity of sleep. So go to bed at the same time each night.
The next couple of tips have more to do with the race itself. So let's jump into that college race.
And we are off on the way to the cross-country meet. I haven't run cross-country in 5 years, so I'm a little nervous. Now, while we're on the topic of tips, here's what I have done leading up to the race. I've made sure I got extra good sleep the last few nights. You have to focus a little bit more on that coming up on the race. The night before is less important than multiple nights before. I tapered one day, so my legs are feeling a little extra good today. And then this morning, I made sure to eat just a very small breakfast. Race is at 9:45 a.m., so you don't want to eat a full meal. You want to go into it just a little bit hungry. But I had a half bowl of oatmeal, and then I just brought some normal fueling that I've been using for marathons, but I'll pop that in right before the race and make sure I'm hydrated. Yep, that's it. Got it. I should tell you that this is actually my first cross-country race in 5 years. The last time I was in a cross-country race was NCAA Nationals in 2019 when our team won. So my expectations are not as high as they were back then. Let's go warm up.
While I'm warming up, let's jump into my next tip, which is mental strategies like visualization.
If you can visualize the different scenarios that might come up in the race so that you are able to make good decisions that you made beforehand rather than to be reactive without having decided what you would do, it can really help you to be patient and make smart, good tactical decisions. Have a power statement. Really, this tip comes from a mental aspect of the sport of cross country. It is said by some that that running is as much mental as it is physical. And I find that to be, I find a lot of truth in that. And if you can find tools or ways to help your mental game, especially when things get difficult, then you will have an edge on your competition. So having a power statement means a phrase that is super easy to remember, something that is quick, short, precise, that will motivate you and keep you focused on the task at hand in the race. So some of my favorite power statements that I've used are, I belong. Don't waste this opportunity. They hurt just as much as I do. When you start to hurt or struggle in a race, it might give you that edge to push past the part that really hurts. And that mental strategy can help you to push beyond the physical limit that you may not have actually reached just quite yet. So give it a try. Come up with a short statement or phrase that you can tell to yourself late in the race and see if it doesn't help you stay extra focused and motivated to push yourself to your actual limits.
Oh, I'm so nervous.
All right, just got the warm-up done and did some course recon. It's super hilly. That's a joke. It's actually pancake flat. And just a little bit about this race, okay? The Autumn Classic. This is the first time I get to run this race stress-free because it's typically a little bit of a stressful race, okay? This is the race many years ago that got me onto the BYU team, and it's the race that gets you your travel spot, and today there's no pressure for any of it. My best finish was 5th place. That was my senior year. I think today, if I finish in the top 10, that would be incredible. I think anything in the top 20 is honestly solid. But I have not tapered, and I haven't run a grass workout in a very long time. So, yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
No, Michael. We don't believe it.
I actually haven't done any races or workouts in these shoes. I think they'll be a good shoe for cross country. Taller stack height, they've got the rods, so it's like a super spike, so I don't know, should feel good.
Hey, Liza has something for you.
Oh yeah? The sticks? Thank you.
She wanted to give them to you.
And the leaves are so pretty.
Then it was almost silent as a mob of 150 of us runners lined up on the start line, waiting for the gun. Cross-country starts can feel like absolute chaos, and this one was no different. I found myself in the middle of the pack as I didn't have a spot right on the front line, so I had to use the first quarter mile to get my positioning right.
Get off the line into the position that you want to finish. I think it's important to get out hard in cross country and get into the position where you roughly want to finish. And there's multiple reasons. Number one is that there's not a lot of shuffling that takes place in a cross-country race after the first quarter or third of the race or so. At that point, your position is roughly settled and there's only a little bit of positioning that happens after that. Another reason is because in cross-country, you have so many people in the race and the terrain is much rougher than in other races such as track or road races, that it's a lot harder to make big moves. So with that said, the goal is to be as efficient as possible in the first part of the race, and by getting off the line well, get out hard and settle back. As long as you settle back relatively quickly, it should not affect your overall performance.
Now, this race was supposed to be a 4-mile race. However, it wasn't measured exactly, and we believe it was about 4.2. So even though the GPS watch is definitely off and probably says I ran faster than I actually did, I'm going to give you those splits. So over the first mile, I got myself tucked into the back of that front pack of about 30 people and came through in 4:42, which was admittedly a shocking pace on the grass. I was not used to this in my marathon training, and it was already starting to get difficult. Despite this, I did my best to remain as efficient as possible and just held my position at the back of that pack. Soon enough, I came through at 2 miles in the same position in a 4:51. And before we get to the end of this race, I'm going to give you my 5th and final tip.
My 5th and final tip for running faster this cross-country season is to be patient. Being patient applies to 2 different aspects here. Number 1 is in your training. You have to trust the process of your training, understanding that the end of the season is when you should be feeling your best. Don't get too excited and expect to have the best results right at the beginning of the season. Be patient, trust that the process will work, and that when you actually taper down for those final races, that you're going to be performing at your best. And the second way to apply this is in the race itself. The race is won by who crosses the finish line first, not who comes through mile 1 first. Racing your opponents early in the race can waste a lot of energy. If there are people making surges and extra moves, there's not a lot of benefit to cover those early on in the race as long as you're staying within the general group that you want to race with. Remember that it's really important to be as efficient as possible early in the race so that you have the extra gas in the tank at the second half of the race when you actually need it to win your race. That being said, I do want to caution you, maintaining contact is extremely important in cross country. If there are moves made early that you need to make to keep contact, there could be some benefit to covering that move. And it just takes some race experience to understand when that is or isn't a good idea.
Unfortunately, I really did struggle that second half of the race. At about 2.5 miles, the top BYU guys really blew it apart with a hard surge, and I found myself really struggling to maintain that pace and faded back. I'm embarrassed to admit that my mental game was not good at the end of this race. But all things considered, I'm proud of almost getting into the top 20 and having a really good time. Unfortunately, in my post-race recap, there was some really loud, copyrighted country music blasting behind me, so I have silenced it. But basically, I just explained that I tried to put myself in it, that I was in it up until about 2.5 miles, and really struggled in the second half. And ultimately, you should do as I say, not as I did today. Ha ha ha.
Good luck to you this cross-country season. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions for me or anything that you think that I got wrong. I have lots of exciting things going on in this channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one.